10 teams who can make the national title game. Again, college football playoff is kind of too broad, even if it's just 14 playoffs, but 2 teams that probably could, or I should say 10 teams that could win a semifinal and end up in the national title game. And start here, we got Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas A&M, Utah, as you can see right there on the wing. I'm not going to spend a whole hell of a lot of time on Alabama or even Ohio State and Georgia, except to say, you know who Nick Saban is. You also know that he's getting $10 million to be head coach at Alabama when the contract ends in 2030. He will be 78 years old. Look, this is a man who had hip replacement surgery a few years back and was golfing in like 11 days. So I don't know that he ages like the rest of us are aging, and recruiting and football seems to keep him very young. So he'll probably be around to serve out that entire contract, but it also makes him the highest paid coach in college football. Not a month after Kirby Smart became the highest paid coach in college football. So now the 2 highest paid employees at public universities ever are football coaches at Alabama and Georgia, right? Just let that marinate for just a little while. Ryan Day is making a cool $9.5 million, tied for third. It's fine there. But you also know what Ryan Day has offensively. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's about whether or not the defense is going to be pretty doggone good. Jim Knowles already said up, put about 75% of the offense in. That's right where we should be. Let's be good at what we are good at. Let's let our athleticism take over. Let's see if the guys can see football, hit football. Okay. A&M, never been in a college football playoff. Utah, never been in a college football playoff. RJ, what the hell are they doing in this list? They're talented. They're talented at A&M, and they're experienced and talented at Utah. For Utah, it's about being the first team since Washington to win the Pac-12 championship and receive an invitation to the college football playoff. And then, judging by what they were able to do against Ohio State last year, taking it down to the wire, really coming down to a gut check call for Kyle Whittingham and whether or not they win or lose that game, I think they have the defense and the offense to compete with any one of these teams in a national semifinal. It also depends a lot on what Mohamed Diabate is able to do at the middle linebacker position, because Devin Lloyd was a fierce man running the middle of that defense for Morgan Scalley last year, but he's also getting run ragged by Ohio State's receiving corps. You got to put a lid on that if you expect to contend for a national title spot. A&M is just super talented, and Jimbo Fisher knows how to win national championships. He did it as an offensive coordinator with Nick Saban at LSU. He's done it as a head coach at Florida State. A&M is just that program that can't seem to break through. No matter how much money they spend and no matter what the price of oil is, they seem to just be teetering there on the edge. And then they made it more difficult for themselves about 10 years ago when they decided to leave the Big 12 and go to the SEC West, which, you know, it's got not just Alabama in it, but LSU and Auburn, all teams that have won national championships in the last 10 years. And oh, by the way, Florida is pretty doggone good in most years. It's just a tough place to try to win football games before we start talking about Ole Miss making the Sugar Bowl and Mississippi State maybe popping up and being good. We'll see. I would like to see it. All right. From those 5, let's go to the next 5 that I believe can make it to the national title game. All right. Notre Dame at 6, Oklahoma at 7, USC at 8, Clemson at 9, and Texas at 10. All right. Notre Dame kind of takes care of itself in that they've proven that they can get to the national championship game at least once in the last 10 years, even if they got boat raced by Alabama in that game. So much so that many of us got up at halftime and decided to go do something else. Shout out to my lead producer, Tyler Wojak, who is a Notre Dame alumni, and he just is letting me call it like I see it. Now, it's also about Notre Dame being, I think, in a really great position to take advantage of some youth and some really, really outstanding defensive and offensive play calling from a Marcus Freeman, from an Al Golden defensive coordinator, and from Tommy Rees, who's going to maintain the role that he had last year when Notre Dame was pretty damn good, ends up playing in the Fiesta Bowl, losing what I thought was a thrilling game to Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. But you know that I love me some Marcus Freeman, 36 years old. This is his first opportunity to be a head coach. He goes and gets a win against Ohio State. It's no longer about whether or not they can get there. It's that they're going to be there. I think they could even take a loss with a win over Ohio State and get into the college football playoff. It's about, can you win one of those games, say a 1-4 matchup, to get to the national championship game. If it's 1-4 against Alabama, we'll see, right? But you really need to be in that 2-3 range, I think, if you're Notre Dame. And I think all of these teams could deal with being in that 2-3 range to try to get to the national championship game. Next on that list for me is Oklahoma, right? New head coach and Brent Venables. Also bringing a lot of what he learned over the past decade at Clemson, implementing that at Oklahoma. He's brought in an offense coordinator that could give everybody fits in Jeff Lebby, whose offense is going to go fast, going to have a lot of tempo. He's also got a quarterback that knows the system. We'll talk a little bit more about him later, but it's also, I think, about what the defense can do with Brent Venables and Ted Roof running it. Billy Bowman apparently is showing out at the safety position. That was one of the better prospects, I believe, in the 2020 class coming out, 2021. Kind of forget sometimes with that dude because he's just so big and he's grown so fast. He's got diesel, man. Looked like CJ walking down the aisle talking about, or excuse me, the alley talking about, here we go again. That's the dude that's getting ready to throw you hands. You also have DJ Graham coming off of what I thought was a great season for him, having that outstanding interception against Nebraska. That stupid Oklahoma fan, or not, nobody stupid. I should not go that. Some Oklahoma fans thought he should have dropped that pass. I'm like, nah, man, you make that play. That's what you do. You go make that play. You've got Jalen Redmond, I think, is going to be outstanding on that defensive nose tackle position. You also have a Marcus Stripling, who I think has got a great first step. You've got guys in the middle like David Uwegbu who can go. You got guys on the sidelines that I think can help you when you go rotate in. Reggie Grimes, I think, is going to play a pivotal role in this team. You also have Andrew Graham, who I think is an outstanding center and probably is a candidate to win the Remington Award. They're just balanced, and I haven't been able to say that Oklahoma's balanced for a very, very long time. I'm excited to see what they can do with this non-conference where they ought to go 3-0. And they also got a Nebraska schedule there that, well, Nebraska would like nothing more than to beat a ranked Oklahoma in Lincoln. Okay, next on that list is USC. Lincoln Riley obviously left Oklahoma to go to USC, brought Caleb Williams, Mario Williams with him, along with half of 2021's Oklahoma staff. I think the guy that makes them go is not necessarily going to just be Alex Grinch, although he is the defensive coordinator, but it's Brian Odom. If he gets a lot out of Shane Lee, an Alabama transfer who's got a lot in common with a guy like Kenneth Murray, a guy that Brian Odom developed into a first-round draft pick, that defense might be able to actually keep a lid on itself and allow Caleb Williams and the offense to go. They're studded at the transfer portal spots of running back, Oregon, Travis Dye. I mentioned the quarterback. I mentioned one wide receiver. Jordan Addison's going to be on the other side. You also add Brendan Rice. You got dudes to go after people at USC. And that's one of the reasons that they're ranked inside the top 15 for many. Is you look at Lincoln Riley, you see 55 wins. You see just 10 losses. You see the talent that he has at his disposal. And that way, I make them akin to a Texas A&M. They're just too good to leave off this list. Next on this list is Clemson. I'm not as high on Clemson. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for two reasons. One, they play in the ACC, which is historically watered down, and they just lord over it. They're going to have some challengers this year, one being North Carolina State, who just edged out of this particular group. But it's about whether or not DJ Uiagalelei, or to that point, Cade Klubnik, can come up with the kind of offensive play that they need at the quarterback position. They're going to have two tailbacks that I think can go in Kobe Pace, Will Shipley. Which one of those guys actually steps up? It's going to be more interesting. And then you're going to need Joseph Nada to be that guy on the outside with Frank Ladson going to Miami, losing Justin Ross. You just need to be sound offensively so that you can give your defense an opportunity to go make some plays. They're going to be studied defensively. They always have guys led by Brian Brzee up front with Miles Murphy. You're going to be in a great place to try to put the clamps on most of your opponents. And the non-conference schedule is not difficult. Most difficult games I think they have on their schedule, October 1st against North Carolina State, Notre Dame on November 5th. They make it through those. They'll get into the ACC championship game. They win that. We're really probably going to be picking between an ACC champ, a Big 12 champ, and a Pac-12 champ to fill out what we expect to be the fourth spot in the college football playoff. And then Clemson has shown that they can win national championships if you give them half a chance. Shocking Alabama in 2018 with one of the great seasons in all of college football with a true freshman quarterback. Last on the list, the one I'm probably going to catch the most smoke for, bring it, Texas. They're talented, man. And I like Steve Sarkisian and the way that he's gone about building the 2022 team. Less enthusiastic about lording over the program and more enthusiastic about, hey, I'm a dude trying to get to know you. We've done a lot more team bonding, he told me at Big 12 Media Days. You have a talented wide receiver in Xavier Worthy to match with an extremely talented quarterback in Quinn Ewers, a guy that ought to be getting some fringe Heisman love, and a former Ohio State quarterback that, like most Ohio State quarterbacks, end up transferring because he's just not the guy. The number of dudes that have basically been Ryan Day proteges that go on to do pretty doggone good, cool things is growing, right? We got Jack Miller in a quarterback derby with Anthony Richardson. We've got Quinn Ewers winning the job at Texas. We've got Joe Burrow leaving because he lost the job to Dwayne Haskins, who's pretty doggone good, to have one of the great quarterback seasons that we've ever seen. I think what's more about that is that nobody's unhappy with Dwayne Haskins being the quarterback at Ohio State for those years. Everybody felt really good about that. And now that you know that CJ Stroud's going to be the guy, I would love nothing more than to see Texas and Ohio State go after each other. But then again, I would like to see Ohio State and Oklahoma go after each other, because that is the game that spawned this channel, if you're watching on YouTube, and got me into this in a very real way some years after deciding that I want to talk about and write about college football in college. Now, those are my 10 that I think we can really talk about in the preseason, being those that can make the national title game. But obviously, we're going to see how this moves and shakes. A lot is going to be determined September 10th when Alabama travels to Texas to play Texas on the 40 acres. I hope that game is close, because if it is, a lot of people are going to be looking at Texas just a little bit differently, to say nothing of what USC and Notre Dame might do, to say nothing of what Oklahoma might do in the Big 12, or even whether or not an A&M ends up in the SEC title game, which means they would have leapfrogged Alabama, which frankly, I would be here for that in the Nick Saban era. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.